Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, one and all. Welcome to another edition of The Smoking Barrel. I'm Rustin Edwards, based in Geneva, with illustrious world traveling co-host Mr. Matt Stanley in Dubai.
I'm back. The
Back
big
from the
dog is
tropics
back.
to the heat.
And it's raining. I don't know if you
Oh,
can see. You can hear that? That's my
wow.
front of my house. It is raining. Um, and they've closed Jumeirah Golf Estates. Drones and stuff and missiles are okay, but the rain that will close the golf course.
Hmm.
Now I'm back. So yeah, I flew back in yesterday afternoon. We were in the Indian Oceans, saw you last week. And it was just I just wanted to come. The family have gone somewhere else, so they're going to be away for the foreseeable um, until things calm down. We'll talk about all that in a minute. But I just wanted to get home, mate. I wanted to be back in a routine. I hate not being in a routine. Um, holiday's nice, so I came back to flood defense duties. But no, at the airport yesterday, Dubai airport was a ghost town. Literally, I remember when my first flight out after COVID, and I thought it was a bit surreal. COVID was a global issue, and Male Airport, when I went there, that was busy. Gets Dubai. It was sad. It was sad, to see it because it's a lot of. You realize how many people work there. If Dubai will bounce back, places bounce back, but it was pretty grim. It hit home really. But anyway, fuck it. I don't care. I'm ready to fight.
Well, and where we're at right now, market wise, we got 113.58 on the front month Brents. A
Yes.
bit of selling pressure on the structure as people looks like are rolling positions from the front month to the second month.
Yeah.
Gas oil, 1,403, up $55 today.
That's $190 a barrel.
That it is, all day
Where,
long.
where is jet fuel? Do you know? Where's jet fuel?
Actually, I don't have a live jet price, unfortunately.
Neither do I. I can find out where the regrades trading, but comfortably north of 200, I would say. He's got to be. If Gasol's trading 190 in Europe, East West's probably negligible. So we'll get it live. But
Well,
yeah,
if you look at where things were on Friday, jet actually came off from its lofty highs on Friday, but who knows what the moving is and machinations on that is. FOB jet was roughly 1684,
right. And
still extremely high levels.
about $218 a barrel.
Yeah. So I mean, the markets are still really strong on the distillates because of the shortfall from the exports out of the ARA, out of the Persian Gulf. And
Yeah.
the same thing with fuel oil markets in the East are relatively superiorly strong versus the rest of the market. Because I don't think people realize the shortfall that happens in east of Suez fuel supply without those barrels coming out of Iraq, Kuwait, and Bahrain.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we were talking about that before we came on today. That can you hear me all right? Because it is quite biblical outside the rain. It's fine, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, it's we were talking about that about how much oil is actually locked into the Middle East Gulf, and I think there's a few things. If we just do a sort of summary on the conflict, right, where we are, activity overhead has calmed down within here, but it seems to me that the Iranians are now targeting the Israelis directly more than a sort of wider GCC targeting neighbors kind of thing. There's still stuff being intercepted. Someone was injured this morning in Abu Dhabi. He got hit by debris when the missile was intercepted. What a sentence that is. Um, but it does seem to be shifting. However, I do think we're at a turning point with the timeline threat that Trump said 48 hours before you allow free passage through the Strait of Hormuz, before we start targeting power plants. There will
Which,
clearly be some reciprocal attacks in neighboring. That's what really concerns me, if I'm honest,
well, and
because
and and that time clock is about 12 hours away from expiring.
so what happens here? What I mean, this is really important because Middle East, who are naive, you're fine, by the way. For those who are naive, well, all the water that comes into the vast majority of countries within the Middle East is all desalinated water, which is highly energy, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Uses a lot of
Intensive.
energy
Intensive.
intensive, takes salt water, processes it, then it goes into potable water pipes. I don't drink it, not a lot of people do, but then it's treated as drinking water. And then that goes, it's the lifeblood. Jebel Ali is the main, I think Jebel Ali is the biggest desalination plant in the world, biggest gas-fired one. Um, Obviously, that's another issue because the vast majority of the UAE's gas came from Qatar via the Dolphin pipeline, came from the North Gas field in Qatar, processed through Ras Laffan, and then put through a pipe, and then goes into Jebel Ali, goes into Abu Dhabi, and then different places. But ADNOC have their own gas production, so I think that we will see all the ADNOC replace the Dolphin gas if there is an issue. We don't know yet. But anyway, the threat of that, the threat of desalination plants being hit, power plants being hit, that is a serious escalation, right?
Of course it is. I mean, it is a case that you've got close to 200 million people in the region. If you count all of Iraq, Kuwait, what have you, in the GCC, and then you have the population of Iran.
Yeah.
Water is a primary resource for everybody in the world, and to threaten that and using that as a tool of terror is beyond comprehension in my head.
Yeah, it's I know. I mean, there was let me go on to the marine traffic app so I can show you. Um, who's the guy in the States? Stephen Cole, what's his name? Hang on. Stephen Colbert. Is that his name? The Late Show.
The comedian, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he referenced the marine traffic app, said you got to get it. Actually, let me play it here. It's in front of me. Um, anyone, I'm sharing marine traffic right now. Let me share my other one. Did you see this clip?
No,
Okay, hang on. LinkedIn. Here he is. Can you see this?
yeah,
Right, let's go back to the beginning. Watch this.
and
I
unmute it.
don't,
Yeah,
I don't care about a shameless plug. Can you hear it?
no.
Hang on.
Green traffic, okay? It's the best app of all time. It shows you every boat in the world that has a registered AIS transponder and provides its navigational status, speed, and reported ETA. And that's for all types of seafaring and river going vessels.
You couldn't pay for better advertising.
Oh, mate, I mean, of course, we have leveraged the shit out of it, but anyone who's a fan of the Smoking Barrel, you've already seen it. You don't worry about Steve Colbert. I can't even say his surname. Shut up, mate. I've heard you once. Don't want to hear you again. Right, just going to marine traffic here. Let's go on to all vessels. Let's do passenger, high-speed craft, fishing, pleasure craft, navigation aids. Here we are right now. So, I mean, these are all the different tankers. Have I got everything on here? Hang on. Let me make sure I'm logged in to I'm not even logged in. How do I log in? You can get in touch with your friend in Marine Traffic account manager who can help you out, Stanley. Right. Am I logged in?
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am. Okay. So here we are. Look, I mean, again, nothing is crossing. I
Well,
mean,
well, you do have vessels that are crossing, and they're basically going up through Keesham Island, the channel there, getting their approval from the IRGC, and then heading southbound.
right. This is what I was going to ask you. Let's put in a
A
map
navigational
type.
chart?
Yeah, let's do it. Because a lot of people commented on this that this was really useful to sort of understand. So here we are. There was a boat. If I just go into the Kepler terminal, can you see my Kepler terminal here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was a boat we saw. Where is it? I saved it for later, did I? One sec. Nope. Hang on. US and Israel, Iran. Look at all these fucking tariffs. Do you remember when we were just talking about tariffs and that was a big problem? Oh, I missed the tariff days. Okay, so it was what would it have been? About the 16th, 17th, something like that. So we saw Qatar. God alive, so much has gone on. I think it was the first boat Look how much we've written about
Well,
it.
you're talking about the Aframax cargo of crude oil.
Yes. First, this one. So I think we spoke about this last week. So what you're saying here, what's the name of the boat? I think it's the Lorax. Right, let me bring it up so you can see it. Where is that now? So let's go Lorax. Come on. Come on, you can do it.
Well, I think the she was an Aframax that was going to
Right.
Pakistan. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back on her chart. So okay, this is important, right? So let me overlay this. I think I'll be able to do this on marine traffic as well. So here she is. She was at Anchorage. Now, talk us through. Okay, let's overlay this so you can see. Here is the traffic separation scheme that you told us about last time, right?
Yep.
So the usual route would be you take Anchorage here, or you wouldn't even go to Anchorage, would you? Go
No.
straight through this. So you're going pretty close to Oman territory here, and then straight down.
Well, you are in Omanian territory because you see where that Raycon is. That's an island that's owned by Oman. And
Right.
so, if you look at the entire traffic separation scheme, it sits in Omanian national waters.
Okay. But this is what is being closed off. Now, if you look here on this boat, this is so what instead of them going this way and then round here as they would, they're having to go up here. And you think so the reason they're doing that is because the Iranian are the IRGC of saying you can come through, but you're taking this route.
Yes. They're basically saying you have to go through our checkpoint, which is in our territorial waters, to approve your passage through the strait.
Okay. I mean, right, okay.
And there
So
was an
hang on,
article I
sorry.
saw
Yeah,
today that they're basically saying for clean passage it's $2 million. Um, but I
okay.
haven't seen that official through a IRGC posting.
Right, so that's the essential toll to go through.
Yes.
Right. So for the track, just again, I know we covered this on a previous episode. The traffic separation scheme is the way that ships navigate certain routes approved by the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, right?
Correct.
So now that's been ripped up. The Iranians have said bollocks to that. If you want to come through here, you're not going that way. You're going to go this way.
Yes. So the Iranians are basically saying that they do not recognize the International Treaty for the Safe Passage of Vessels, which dictates the safe passage between different straits around the world, such as Gibraltar, Hormuz, Ras Al Bab el Mandeb, because in those areas you can have multiple countries claim jurisdiction and try to control the flow. Um,
Right.
so in that case, those places are have been designated as free, secure traffic transits for all vessels to maneuver through, military as well as commercial.
Okay. So,
And so Iran is trying to claim sovereignty over the entire straits because they say that they can project their military power to control the strait,
okay.
and other countries cannot do so. Now,
Okay.
Oman and the UAE both have territorial waters that are part of the Straits of Hormuz.
Right. So, okay. Let's pick at that because there's a couple of things here. The deadline that Donald Trump said to the Iranians, you got 48 hours to essentially open this, right? Open this. Now, the Iranians are saying we never closed it. It's open
Yes.
apart from to our enemies, which are not listed. I'm
No.
assuming anyone who's aligning with the Israelis and anyone who's aligning with the Americans.
And it seems like anybody who's part of the GCC. Now, they have tried to make clarifications in some of their news postings, such as any vessel that takes on U.S. support, whatever that means, um, any country that's trading in U.S. Financial instruments, which would be China as well, India, because they buy U.S. Treasury bonds. Um, so it's a bit of a mixed bag as to what is an enemy, what is not an enemy.
Yeah.
And basically, I think it's just at the whim of whoever they feel they want to shoot at or do at. Now, yes, have they closed the straits? No, they haven't. But it's a threat of potential damage to a vessel which keeps people from transiting the straits. Nobody wants to bum rush the straits under the threat that they're going to be shot at by a anti-ship missile or attacked by a drone. And that's why the straits are closed. You can't get insurance coverage. That's why the straits are closed. It's not closed because Iran has picketed their navy across the straits and dumped a bunch of mines in there. It's just the threat of an airborne attack on a ship.
Okay. These are all the vessels that have been attacked. Okay. Vessels that across the Straits of Hormuz by risk level as of March 19th. You can see the blue, all these are the sanctioned ones. Shadow Fleet and then everything else. So not a lot. Okay, just going back to this then. And I'm just thinking, I'm thinking out loud here. But, and the reason I'm pausing is because I want to ask the right questions rather than waffle, which I've got a habit of doing, have done for a long time. This deadline is up in 12 hours, roughly. Let's just say. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute, the deadline. But so what Donald Trump is saying is you allow the traffic separation scheme, everything's back to normal. But that's what you want. That's what's got to have to happen. But the
free
Iranians,
unmolested, I think it's a question of the free unmolested transit of all vessels through the Straits of Hormuz, period.
right. But the Iranians will say, no, you've got to come this way by Keshem Island, right?
Well, the Iranians have already, I think, in their parliament, they were debating the toll, which passed apparently, that you have to pay Iran a fee to transit the straits.
Okay. Okay. So that's from a practical navigational point of view, what ships have to do. This is how they were doing it. That's done. They're now going this way. You can see here, there's a couple that are going past. The Pine Gas, what's this? The Bright Gold, China owner. What does this one say? Indian ship. Pine Gas, Indian ship. What does this one say?
Indian crude.
One sec. Mosquito. Got it. What's this one? Larak, OPL. I mean, there's not a lot else, is there? What's this? China, Egret. So I think that it's similar to down Bab el-Mandeb, where you'd have like armed guards on board, Russian crew on board, China crew on board. So okay, that's what's actually happening. That's how what's gonna the deadline traffic separation scheme done. It's going up Keshem Island, subject to the Iranians applying this toll. No one really knows how that works. We've heard the toll fee is 10% of the value of the cargo. Don't know if that's true. That would be exorbitant. Okay, let's now move
$1
on.
exorbitant because again, it's not Iran. The Straits of Hormuz is not Iranian waters.
Right,
Part of it is, yes, but not the entire strait.
Yeah, that $2 million fee you're saying, that's who that gets paid to who?
Well, that's supposed to be paid to the Iranian government.
Not dollars though, because they can't get dollars.
Well, I mean, again, these are the things that are
Terms.
out there that are being discussed, that are being posted. Again, I cannot confirm the dollar value. I cannot confirm is that true or not, because again, that was just something that I read on a article.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm not putting you. I'm not saying is this right or wrong. Okay, so just on that on the timeline, 12 hours left. What happens here? Like, no one really knows what Donald's going to do, but if they say no, I mean, and they do attack power plants, that is significant. That is a turning point in the war. That is, I think there's a lot of anxiety here within the region. Like, people are kind of waiting. Like, if that does happen, that is a grave situation. I don't even know if I want to speculate on that, but we'll have to deal with that because we could probably talk for hours on that. On the back of all this, what we've seen, it was a very dithering Scott Bessent, who's the Treasury Secretary, talk about Iranian sanctions. Is it Bessent who's the Treasury Secretary?
Yes.
Where he said on Friday or Thursday, is it, US waiver opens door to Iranian oil. So what's happened there? The
So it's the
US,
same thing they did with Russian oil. If your oil's been sitting on the water for, I believe, 30 days or longer, it can be transacted and the money has to be cleared through a US clearing.
right? Because my colleagues have written something about it. I'll be honest, I haven't read it yet, but I need to. So for the third time in 2 weeks, US has issued temporary waivers on sanctioned oil in a bid to rein in prices. So this is for, okay, US waivers on Iranian oil afloat could unlock 5 million barrels of 5 million of supply within a month. Okay. What does that mean? Like, Kim, what am I coming to you? What does this mean? What do you mean? But what does it mean? Does that mean that
Well,
Europe can buy Iranian oil?
it is a bait of, what exactly does that mean? Because that oil would clear eventually anyway. It's not like the oil has been sitting indefinitely on ships. Iranian oil and Russian oil have been clearing into refining sectors in India and in China for years. And it will eventually clear. It just allows a quicker clearance. Now, how much is that actually required in those places, people who would take it? That's a very interesting question. Thinking because China has cut runs, they've stopped exports of products in certain cases, so they're not overrunning their refining capacity, allowing to have extra crude. Is that going to make the Chinese government open the spigots and allow exports to resume? Probably not.
This is the thing. Like, if you're working at, let's say you're working at a refiner that's in the Med, or, I don't know, a Repsol, right? Tarragona refinery, let's say, for example. Would you? I mean, are you just going to pick? You're going to call? Okay, can you get me Iran on the phone? Can you get me Iran on the
There
phone?
are other sanctions other than the United States on Iranian oil. So
Right. So
there
there's
are
European.
EU sanctions, there are UN sanctions. Just because the US says you can take Iran doesn't mean it's a carte blanche for the world.
I'm
Uh,
laughing because,
But well, this is I mean
but
it's like the same thing with the Russian oil. Oh, the US lifts sanctions on Russian oil. Okay, well guess what? The EU haven't. And the EU still says we don't want any products from Russian production. So it
from
doesn't
Russian crude oil,
really say again.
but you don't any products derived from Russian crude oil.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. Or
Yeah, yeah.
any Russian product. Can't bring it in. So
Okay.
again, it does, it gives the Asian refineries where the shortfall sits in the world is in Asia, not in west of Suez, it's east of Suez, primarily Asian refineries. So it allows your Thai refinery, Sri Lanka, China to acquire sanctioned oil to run in their refinery plants and not hit under the um, pressure of the US Treasury on sanctions.
Okay. This is really important because it, I don't think a lot of people kind of understand that it's getting leaky here. Um, a lot of people understand it because the way that the US kind of have advertised this is, yeah, but don't worry because to ease prices, we're going to allow everyone to buy Russian and Iranian crude or products. But actually, that's not
Well,
that
The
can't
US
happen.
can say whatever the US wants. There's more to the world than the US. The US is a country. It is not the world.
Well,
Well, I know people want to think that the US is the world government and what have you, but it's not. I mean, Trump can think what he thinks about himself, but he's not God.
there's been a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on the principal positions of the Islamic Republic of Iran regarding maritime security and safety in the Strait of Hormuz. It seemed like there might be a bit of a step down. I don't know. We'll have to read that, but that's just okay. That's just come out. We'll deal with that later. But yeah, okay. All right, fine. So all right, so we've got 12 hours left, a bit less now, of the deadline. Power plants being hit. That's a red. People are worried about that. US waivers. What do they all mean? Well, okay. Um, all right. I mean, what do you? I don't. There's so much going on. It's like, hang on. Okay, okay. So let's bring back Homayun's article, right? Because I want to show you this. Because we're all talking about what's happening, what's going on. Everyone's got an opinion. It's now been, will be a month, I think, on Saturday, which is unbelievable. Let me bring up Homian's article so you can see, as my colleagues are head of
Yeah, this
crude.
has got to be one of the quickest months I've ever experienced in my life.
Telling me, mate. Jesus. Right, so let me bring this up. Um, where is it? Running out of barrels. Look at this. This is really important because prices, oil prices, $114 a barrel roughly, you said for Brent, $190 a barrel for diesel, gas going Garrity. Um, Largely, we haven't yet breached $119.50 we saw 2 weeks ago, I think, when the market's kind of. But this is, from a physical point of view, 130 million barrels of production of oil losses since the start of the war. 250 million by the end of March, 400 by mid-April, and 600 by the end of April if flows don't resume. We're at 11.5 million barrels a day of production outages. And as Homian says, short-term fixes, strategic petroleum reserves, sanctions relief, US waivers, they delay, they don't offset the growing structural deficit. Oil is still moving. People are still getting it. Prices seem to have topped out for now 119.50. I think by the end of this week that 119.50 could look cheap.
I don't know. It depends on really what happens geopolitically. But I think when you put this into context of what does this actually mean? So if the war should stop today and Hormuz opens up, you're probably still looking at anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks before you get any type of normalization of loadings. And that's why ships have been repositioned. There are ships already in the Persian Gulf that are loaded that have to go to Disport. So you have to get new tonnage in to load, and that's going to take time. So a lot of ships repositioned around to the Red Sea so they can load out of Yanbu. Ships loading in Fujairah, they can carry stuff off as well. So nevertheless, you don't have the tonnage in place to start getting exports back up to where they are, and that will take time. If they're loaded, they have to go discharge and come back. And so you can see 45, 90 days, 120 days before tonnage gets its way back into the Persian Gulf to get volumes back to normal. And then on top of that, you've got to get the refineries up and running and get those exports going again. And the damage that they've curtailed, experienced through all the missile strikes from Iran to the different refining units around the Middle East. How
Yeah.
long is that going to be for those repairs to be done? And before that happens, then getting those exports up. So you're talking almost 6 months of timing that needs to happen to get things back to kind of a normal flow level, and maybe even a little bit longer to get inventory stocks in the retail side of the barrel to where they're normalized again.
Yeah, look, I mean, I put the ports in and countries. Obviously, these are countries that are locked in. Obviously that they simply the Strait of Hormuz has to be open in order for these guys to export their goods to the world. That's Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, Bahrain, and then the port of Ras Tanura in Saudi and Ruwais in Abu Dhabi in UAE. So here is the rough average. This is all I've done crude here, but let's do all liquids. Oops. Let's do all liquids. So 15.1 million barrels a day in February. March will be down to 3.7.
And
Now, a
that
lot of that,
3.7 is stuff that's loaded on ships that are just sitting inside the Gulf. They haven't left the
correct.
Gulf yet.
No, because the way our methodology works is that it picks up an export once the product is loaded and shipped from the installation it loaded from. So how much has actually gone to? So if you let's look at all of these and let's say to China. 3 million barrels a day in February, 615 so far. And if you're taking out a lot of these ones have actually already gone through. This came out of the Mina Al Ahmadi refinery. This one came out. Let's have a look at this one. Where is she? She's still in the Gulf. No, hang on. Yes, she is. She's still there. Yeah, you can see that's a yeah. Look, I mean, look, it's it's just I just wonder, you know, from a personal point of view, was I a fool to come back? That's a question, I suppose. Was I a fool to come back thinking I wanted to be at home and I wanted to look after my family? I've got two little dogs and all that kind of shit. And I love the UAE. I love my house. Is is my, someone asked me, why did you come back? Like, is everything okay? I said, no, nothing's really changed. I just wanted to come back. But the longer this goes on, the longer this goes on, the more that you read, the more that things like food, dry cargo, if there is an attack on power plant, anyone who's locked in the Middle East Gulf, it is going to be a continual problem that is only going to get worse and worse and worse, isn't it?
Well, it only gets worse and worse and worse as long as there's a war going on. If you get the cessation of hostilities, if that stops, if that happens, you still have the overlying threat of an Iranian regime which can lash out at any moment, any time, because they're just not happy with how they were treated. And so it is a question of the existential threat of a government that is in survival mode, and do they have the right to attack a UAE? Because if you look at the missiles, the attacks, the UAE has actually been attacked a lot more than other countries.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And it's a question of why would Iran attack the UAE, where the UAE has been a facilitator of Iranian trade for 30, 40 years?
Yeah. Yeah, and there was an article actually at the weekend that there was the Iranian hospital, which is a sort of, anyone who knows Dubai well, that's in sort of the old town, like Jumeirah way, that up there. Um, it's quite an iconic building. How, that was closed down. Everyone's been, literally the gates have been shut. The Iranian club, which was a long-standing sort of social destination for a lot of people, that's been
Hmm.
closed down. The Iranian schools have been closed down. Saudi have expelled diplomats in Riyadh. Yeah, you're right. I mean, with 3 weeks in, I think a lot of people thought it would be easing a little bit. It does seem like the crux of the situation, the turning point is this threat on the Strait of Hormuz that's coming up in the next 12 hours. That's where we're going to be. And I think overnight could be the big market reaction. I think it could go one way or another.
Yeah, it could be, depending on how things go. I mean, okay, you take out the power plants in Iran. What does that accomplish? You've got a decentralized military that's been attacking everything and anything that it wants to attack without any stop. It seems like that structure has taken place now because the Israelis have pretty much decapitated the entire regime leadership structure, and so they're in a decentralized leadership structure. So you're dealing with different cells now, not so much a command and control center. So in that case, they can continue attacking as they seem fit because somebody here decides that's what he wants to do, or
I mean,
somebody
it's funny
knows.
because what we try and do at the Smoking Barrel, like, comment, subscribe, of course, is try and not just focus on one issue. What else is happening? What else is going on? Usually we have like three or four or five. Maybe we'll talk about the Fed or what's happening in Chinese demand. But it is this issue, the Middle East conflict, the Ramadan war, whatever they want to call it. It is all consuming. And when I was with my wife last week in when we were away, we're not the only couple in Dubai who are obviously bailing, or not bailing, but leaving the country for safety reasons and taking family. There are a lot of other people, similar professional families. Well, call me a professional at your peril, but you get what I'm saying. And it dominates the dinner table. There is simply not much else to talk about right now because it would either seem arrogant or dismissive of the gravity of the situation.
Well, and the fact that it is 20% of the world's energy coming out of the Middle East, and that's at risk, which will have a knock-on impact across the global economy. So it's not just you can't put this into a regional bottle and cap it up because the knock-on effect is exponential when you start thinking about the cost of transportation. I mean, look at the airlines have already said that they've lost $50 billion in cumulative value canceling routes because of the price of fuel, both in the United States and Europe. where you wouldn't think there'd be any shortfall. I mean, United Airlines canceling, I think it was 10% of their flights because of the cost of fuel.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a lot of things that have a knock-on effect because of this war. And with that in mind, you can't ignore it because it is the focal point of, everybody should be focusing on this. Excuse
Bless
me.
you. No, you're right. Absolutely. I mean, gone are the days where you and I used to talk about the glut and S&D balances. I mean, it's-
Well,
you
but
know,
but that's part of the reason why we're not at $130 crude, is that there has been a lot of spare capacity that's being absorbed rather quickly because of this.
yeah,
And once that spare capacity gets absorbed, we do grind higher, and we've seen that with the prices grinding higher already.
yeah. I think you're right. I mean, look, I'm sure we'll record tomorrow. I'm not doing much else all week. Um, and then keep going with flat price moves since we came on.
Um, well, it's been still hovering right around 113.50.
I've
Um,
got, is that Brent? I've got 109.50 on mine. Why have I got 109.50?
I don't know.
Okay, where's TI?
99.77.
Okay, I reckon it's taking the investing.com's wrong. Gas oil still 14.25-ish.
14.18.
14.18. Okay. And
Okay.
Dutch TTF natural gas up 5% today. I think that's going to continue climbing up. Nowhere near what it did spike up to, I think, 70. What is that? 70 per cubic meter, is that?
Uh,
Euros?
I believe so. That's how the Dutch price the TTF.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, look, I mean, I want to end on a more cheerful note. What can we talk about that's cheerful?
Well, you
I
can't
went
even talk
shopping.
about Arsenal because they lost.
No, fuck that, I don't talk about it. Uh, I went shopping this morning. That was good. And my gold status in Emirates has been renewed for another year. So, all right.
Silver linings. I had to look for those silver linings.
Well, gold linings. All right, mate. Yeah, look, good to see you. We'll chat. We'll chat tomorrow. We'll pump out another episode, and
Yep.
I
So
hope everyone's safe. Yeah.
keep safe. Click like, comment, and subscribe. And we look forward to speaking to you once again. Stay safe.
Ciao.